sometimes when we're talking to people and they can't hear us, we get a little bit louder. Who here has a grandma or grandpa that when you go visit, you're going to talk really loud? Yeah. So you like get really super loud so grandma or grandpa can hear you? Have you ever been talking to someone and you pretended that you couldn't hear them just to see how loud they would get? Yeah, some of you? Yeah. I know it's mean, but it's kind of fun. Well, do you think, sometimes we can't hear each other, so we get a little bit louder. Sometimes we can't understand someone else's language. When the aliens first started talking, before they used English, I mean, how many of you could understand that? I mean, anybody understand that? pt1? Okay. Well, okay. Maybe you can explain that to me later. But I think sometimes when we take all of the stuff about us that we say, I can't hear maybe. You say like, well, sometimes I have trouble hearing other people, or I have a bad cell phone reception, so they can't hear me. You think God ever has a problem with that?
No.
So you don't think God's ever like, we start praying to God, you don't ever think God's like, hey, could you hold on a second, walk outside, I can't hear you. You gotta go outside and look up, and then I'll get a better reception. You think God ever says that? No, because God's so much bigger than all that, that God will never have this problem where He can't hear us because we're not talking loud enough. And God will never have this problem where He's like, wow, you're speaking Spanish and I don't understand that because I didn't take that class, so maybe could you speak English? Like, God never has a problem with that. If we were just speaking gibberish but we were sincere about it, God would still know what we were talking about. Sometimes I think, we assume that God doesn't hear our prayers because we ask for something and God doesn't give it to us. So we assume, well, I asked for this thing and God didn't give it to me, so obviously He didn't hear me, right? Because we think that if God didn't give us what we wanted, obviously He didn't hear us. But maybe it's just that God wanted us to have something else. That God had something bigger in store for us. He's not going to give us this thing over here because God wants us to have this awesome thing over here. And there's not enough room in our life for both. So maybe we want this thing over here. We want this toy or this thing. We want this thing. And we get so upset because God doesn't let us have it. I think God has several different ways that He answers. I've heard people say before that God has 3 different responses when He answers our prayer. Sometimes God says yes. We ask God for something and He says, yes, I'm going to do that. I want you to have that thing. I want that thing to happen for you. I want that to come true. Sometimes God says no. And God doesn't want us to have that. And sometimes God says wait, that maybe He's going to give us that wonderful thing, but He's going to give it to us later. Maybe you want a dog and you're not old enough to handle a dog. You can't handle the responsibilities, but maybe later God's going to bring that in your life. Who knows? It could be anything that maybe you're just not ready for it yet, and God says, wait. I used to work in a shoe department. How many of y'all remember you ever go buy shoes? Yeah. Maybe it's fun, maybe it's not. Well, I used to work in a shoe department over at Belk, and when you work in retail, when you work in like a shoe department, you see some strange stuff. It's almost like working on an alien planet. Because you see these strange people, and they look like humans, and they're about your size, maybe a little bit shorter. They look like humans, but they sound like aliens. Because they come through the shoe department on their way past the toy store, and they're grabbing their mom by the arm or by the hem of their dress, and they're grabbing her and they're saying, "Mom, you were supposed to buy me that toy. You didn't buy me that toy and I wanted it. Oh my gosh, you're the worst mom ever." And they say, you were supposed to buy me ice cream. Or you were supposed to buy me that toy. And you didn't give it to me, so I hate you now. And you're just the worst mom ever. And I've heard that so many times from kids. They would be pulling at their mom or their dad, and they would be griping and complaining. They looked like humans, but they were whining like little whiny aliens. And they make all this noise. And I saw parents do one of two things. Some parents, they totally caved in. They would hear their kids saying this, and they would run over to their kid and they say, "I'm so sorry. Let me go get you that toy that you want. Let me get whatever you want, we're going to do to make you happy. Just don't be mad at mommy. I actually heard parents say that. And then I had other parents that would come through, and these parents believed in spankings. Yeah. How many of your parents believe in spankings? All right. These parents, and maybe I shouldn't laugh at this, but this was always amazing and funny to me, that a kid would get really upset, and they would be in the shoe department. It was just kind of in the way before you went everything else. And the kid would get so upset, and they would go over to the shoes, and they would start messing with them, and like just pitching a fit. They would have this temper tantrum. They'd throw stuff around. And their mom would be looking at something way over here. But this mom believed in spankings. And even though her arm was only this long, when it was time for a spanking, somehow it stretched all the way over here. And it was just always amazing me. Like, these kids would get in trouble, and like, I'm wondering, how did she get over there so quickly? But it was just instant. Because that mom wanted to prevent something from happening. And we might look at that and go like, man, she gave the kid a spanking, she's being a bad mom. But, you know, sometimes there would be this big display, and it'd have all these things. You know, if you go into a grocery store, and you have all those big cans of like green beans, and they're stacked really high. And like, if you took a can off the bottom, then all of it would fall down on you. Sometimes the kid would be messing with something, and the mom stopping them means that because the mom stopped them from playing with that, that means that they didn't pull down this whole big thing of shoes and everything else on top of themselves. So yeah, they got like a little on their hand or the back of their leg, but it stopped them and prevented them from bringing something huge down on top of their head. Their mom actually did them a favor. They might not have liked it because, you know, they were having a temper tantrum, and someone interrupted my temper tantrum. But, you know, the mom might have really stopped them from doing something bad. So they wanted something, their mom wasn't giving it to them. They get so upset, and mom gave them another answer. It's definitely not the answer they wanted, but mom just saved their tail. I want you to imagine for a moment that you're out playing in the front yard, and let's say maybe in front of your yard there's this road, and on this road there's all these cars, and they're going so fast. And you're looking at all these cars, they're going by really fast, and your mom's told you, don't go out the road because it's really dangerous. People drive really fast on this road. And maybe some of you have yards like that. Maybe some of you have a big road going in front, and your mom's told you can't play in the road because it's way too dangerous. But I want you to imagine that you're out playing in the road, you're out playing in the yard, excuse me. You're out playing in the yard.